Hi, Sarah.
Hey, Louise.
Welcome back. We have a new book we're reviewing today, a new memoir.
Yeah, and I guess we're not quite reviewing it so much as just kind of finding themes throughout the
hmm
book.
We're
It's kind
doing
of what we're
themes,
doing.
and it's going to be here we go. I'm going to show it for YouTube. This is Who Am I Really by Damon Davis, and he was our season 1, episode 10 guest, where you can literally hear the book in his interview. So
Yes,
everybody should be encouraged to go and listen to
almost literally, you can hear the
it.
book in his interview. Yeah.
Yeah, and we encourage everybody to listen to that so you kind of feel like, oh, I know Damon as we're talking about this. And we tackled the first 6 chapters, and we're calling this kind of origins, like
Yeah. We're just
where
kind
are
of
adoptees, the theme of origins weaving through.
right. Because Damon just, the first part of the book is him kind of introducing everybody involved in this adoption triad. So we start off with him and his birth name, which was Michael.
Mm-hmm.
And then he kind of goes into the circumstances. But I felt this, it is all about origins.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of felt this underlying, I feel like in the book he wanted to just, to get the stuff out, but I listened closely for
Mm-hmm.
underlying stuff that
Yeah.
might drift through.
I thought about you and I when we first started this podcast, how I would have read this book and how I read it now.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe all books, maybe all memoirs. And
Of adoptees, you
of
mean?
adoptees. Yeah, not whole
Yeah.
memoirs. And
All memoirs.
and just listening to the undercurrent, first his name was Michael, then he gets renamed Damon. And just that alone, I was thinking, we all start off as these different beings, and we're adopted into homes that, with strangers, literally. And you have a name change, which is, the common, not everybody has had a name change, but most adoptees has had a name change. And it's sort of like, okay, one person was born, another person is now
Mm-hmm.
becoming that. It's like that sliding doors. To me, that was, and he said a little bit about it, but I could feel it even in his writing, the undercurrent of it.
Well, and then I even highlighted because that's where I could feel this
Mhm.
undercurrent where talking about Anne, his birth mother, and uh, when she went to have him, she said, when she told her sister
Mhm.
about that she was pregnant, her sister was like, "What? You can't. No, why are you all? We can make this work. Let's keep this baby." It was her sister, and she said Addie was very upset with her younger sister for keeping her pregnancy a secret and for putting me up for adoption. She was incredulous that Anne thought it was a better plan to have the child adopted by strangers than to find a way to raise and love the child herself.
Mhm. The sister actually is the modern thinking of what you should try to keep the baby in the family.
Mm-hmm.
I had a little bit of reaction to that too, because my biological mother was also somebody who chose to put me up for adoption. I say choose lightly because her circumstances were such, there weren't great choices, right? But my aunt did want to adopt me. And I read a letter about that where she was like, what do you mean? We'll take her, it was the same sort of situation.
Yeah.
And I just, it struck a chord actually. So,
There was a little paragraph I highlighted that I wanted to read,
mhm.
which, and this is just, he's kind of, I think this book maybe was written for people who didn't, never have read anything by an adoptee or know much about it. But it's common in infant adoptions for the adoptive parents to get to change the birth name of their son or daughter was given to a new name. I'm sorry, that did not come out right. It's common in infant adoptions for the adoptive parents to change the birth name their son or daughter was given to a new name. That practice helps for better or worse to de-identify the child. That was the word that got me. De-identify the child from their prior life and attempts to bond the child to their new parents through a new identity. Some children destined for adoption are never given a birth name, so the name they grew up with as an adoptee is the only identity they've ever had. When Anne gave birth to me, and for the first 5 months of my life, my name was Michael. When I was adopted, my parents named me Damon.
And then they said something like, that's who I became, Damon, right?
Yeah, or that's who I am.
That's who I am,
Yeah.
Damon. Who am I really?
Yeah. Who am I really?
Yeah, that's pretty profound. I mean, I think as we're trying to go forward in this podcast and continue the narrative for adoptees, these are the things that maybe non-adoptees don't realize, or people just in the world that don't know much about adoption. We spoke to someone who today who's like, I don't know about that, any of this world. And so
Mhm.
the first thing is, if you think about it, you take, we even people try to keep the names when they have the dogs. If they've had them for a while, you try to keep that name. It's like, it's just a strange thing we do in this whole adoption world.
It's like wanting to make something yours, like
Yeah.
I'm guilty. I thought my dog was younger when I got him, and it turns out he was older. So, and this was pre doing all this work we've done. I gave him a name that I wanted to give him, and now I wouldn't do that. I don't think.
Yeah, it's interesting, the whole correlation, with
Yeah.
the but it does make me think of things, you sit there and analyze, like, this is so weird when you really get into it.
It's yeah, it is when you really like sit and think about, oh, okay, we took this baby from someone else, renaming it. It's that it didn't, there was no life before this life for this baby, It's just,
yeah,
it's kind of an absurd thing when you
it
think about it.
is.
It's
It
absurd.
is.
It's like bizarre.
Well, our guest coming up today, she has a lot of origin story too, like a lot of this will tie into actually what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So everybody needs to read next week. If you're keeping up with us, we've done the first 6 chapters of Damon's book, and we're going to post it in our show notes, obviously, so you can find the book easily, and make sure to listen to his episode. I just think hearing it from his voice is like,
Yeah, it's a powerful episode.
it
And
is.
also, remember to subscribe to our podcast
Yes.
if you don't. If you're just listening, I'm great, but we'd love it if you would subscribe. We
Yep.
appreciate that.
It helps us.
All
All
right. See you
right.
in a few.
See you in a few. Bye.
Bye.